1. The sky of Xuchang that afternoon was heavy with leaden clouds. In the quiet back garden, Liu Bei was stooped over green vegetable rows, hands that once held swords now smeared with mud. He appeared as a common old farmer, but behind that was a heart beating wildly due to Cao Cao's grip. Cao Cao saw Liu Bei as a hidden dragon, a threat to be eliminated. An invitation to drink wine and enjoy green plums was issued, essentially a trial. Cao Cao stared into Liu Bei's eyes, dropping the question. The heroes in the world, there are only you and I. At that moment, a lightning bolt tore the sky. Liu Bei intentionally let his chopsticks fall to the ground, his body trembling. That thunder was so fierce. Cao Cao laughed with contempt. Can a great man truly fear thunder? The image of a coward was nailed into Cao Cao's mind, helping Liu Bei escape death. In the 1960s, giants like Sears and Kmart dominated big cities with billions in capitalization. Sam Walton understood that if he showed off, Walmart would be crushed immediately. He had to endure the contempt of the New York financial world, those who called him a grocery-selling country bumpkin. Executing the stratagem, Sam Walton maintained an extremely simple lifestyle, driving a beat-up 1979 Ford F-150, wearing cheap market clothes. He secretly built a logistics system and satellite data, things that competitors considered wasteful. He hid in small towns where rivals didn't bother to look. Results and statistics. Before rising up, 1970, Walmart had only 38 stores, revenue of $44 million. After the explosion, 1990, revenue soared to $26 billion. Currently, Walmart is the world's largest revenue corporation, exceeding $600 billion 2023. Sam Walton's feigning poverty helped Walmart accumulate power silently to devour the market. Today's patience is the solid foundation for tomorrow's glory. Never regret a bit of vain pride when you do not yet have enough strength. Remember, people only throw stones at a tree laden with fruit, and no one bothers with a withered one. Keep working silently, accumulating silently, nurturing your dreams in the dark like a seed lying deep in the cold earth. There will come a time when the very people who once mocked you will have to look up at the ancient tree you have become. 2. Sima Yi lay flat on his bed, hair disheveled, eyes dull. Cao Shuang sent Li Sheng to scout. Sima Yi began the performance, hands trembling, causing the porridge bowl to spill over his chest, utterly messy. He feigned deafness, replying with nonsense. Li Sheng reported, Sima Yi is but a breathing corpse. However, when Cao Shuang left the capital for the Gaoping tombs, that sick tiger surged up. Sima Yi donned battle armor, commanding 3,000 death warriors to seize the capital. Cao Shuang knelt to surrender before his entire clan was executed. Sima Yi sharpened his sword for 20 years just to swing it once. In the late 90s, the dot-com bubble exploded. Young investors made billions from tech stocks. Warren Buffett was considered obsolete, aged, when he firmly refused to invest in things he didn't understand. Berkshire Hathaway's index plunged. Shareholders clamored for him to change. Executing the stratagem, Buffett still lived simply in Omaha, drinking Coca-Cola and silently observing. He accepted being mocked to hold cash. Feigning stupidity before the tech wave was actually the alertness of an eagle waiting for the mouse to leave the hole. Results and statistics. Before the crisis, 1999, Berkshire Hathaway stock decreased by about 20%. After the bubble burst, 2002. While the market evaporated trillions of US dollars, Buffett threw money into buying valued companies at dirt cheap prices. Asset value. Buffett's net worth increased from 30 billion US dollars 2000 to over 100 billion US dollars. Berkshire Hathaway's market cap now exceeds 700 billion US dollars. Sima Yi's victory was not just a victory of strategy, but a victory of absolute emotional control. He lived like a dead man so that he could finally live at the summit of power. Never be foolish enough to display 100% of your heart and soul or your capabilities for others to see, especially before competitors. Learn to keep a part of yourself secret. If you are 10 parts brilliant, show only 7. Hide the remaining 3 parts behind a humble smile or a bit of naivety. Your opponent's negligence is your opportunity. The capital Luoyang was but a heap of ashes. Emperor Xian was trembling in tattered clothes. Cao Cao recognized this as the treasure of the world. He rescued the sovereign, offered him hot soup, and established the court at Xuchang. From that moment, every order of Cao Cao bore the name Imperial Decree. He used the emperor's name to charge rivals as rebels. This power neutralized all moral resistance. Cao Cao did not seize land. He conquered the realm for the Han. He was the uncrowned king, rewriting the rules of the game under the shadow of the old throne. Difficulties. Ray Kroc was a failed milkshake mixer salesman at age 52. He had no core technology, no capital. The McDonald brothers held the legitimate bloodline, but only wanted to keep a small scale. Executing the stratagem, Ray Kroc understood the name McDonald's was the emperor. He borrowed the brand's prestige to command the market. He established a real estate company, controlled premises, thereby forcing franchise partners to follow standards. Finally, he bought out the brand to officially take the throne. Results and statistics. Before taking over, 1954, McDonald's was only a few local stores. After the buyout, 1961, Ray Kroc bought the entire company for $2.7 million US. Current value. McDonald's has over 40,000 stores. Market capitalization exceeds $200 billion US. In any game, brute force is only a necessary condition, while legitimacy and righteousness are the sufficient conditions to lead. Fools use force to break the rules, while the wise use rules to increase their own strength. Do not try to break the rules of the game when you lack sufficient power. Learn to master the rules and turn them into tools for your protection. When you act not just for personal gain, but for something greater, you will naturally attract the support of others. 4. The summer sun scorched Cao Cao's army. Water sources ran dry. Soldiers' throats were parched like roasted grain. Despair spread. Steel discipline stood on the brink of collapse. Cao Cao spurred his horse to a high ridge, pointing his crop. Ahead is a plum forest, large and juicy, with a tart-sweet taste to quench thirst. The soldiers' brains automatically triggered salivary glands. The illusion of hope became a spiritual medicine, helping the entire army revive and find real water. A genius lie saved tens of thousands of lives. In 2008, Tesla stood on the brink of bankruptcy. SpaceX failed the first 3 launches. Employees were exhausted. Musk had to borrow money from friends to pay rent. The press called his projects crazy, executing the stratagem. Musk didn't talk about gloomy financial reports. He painted a magnificent plum forest, taking humans to Mars to preserve the species. These goals are frequently delayed, like a non-existent plum forest, but they create inspirations that makes top engineers work without eating or sleeping. Results and statistics. Crisis period, 2008. Tesla and SpaceX were worth almost zero. After selling hope, SpaceX reached a market cap of $150 billion US. 2023, Tesla became the world's most valuable car company. Peak market cap over $1,000 billion US. 2021. Musk's assets reached over $200 billion. A leader in the darkest hours is not the one who points out the harsh reality, but must be the one who can draw the light at the end of the tunnel, even if that light is sometimes just imagined by them. Remember that the ultimate goal is work efficiency and your own peace of mind, not winning a useless argument. However, one must also remember that the plum forest only serves as a temporary thirst quencher. A good leader knows how to use hope to nurture morale, but must have the execution power to turn that hope into reality. 5. Zhuge Liang understood that with an arrogant man like Guan Yu, logic was useless. He leisurely suggested offering the 2 Chao sisters to Cao Cao so the Chao army would retreat. He recited poetry, intentionally swapping words to imply Cao Cao wanted to lock up the 2 Chaos at the Bronze Bird Pavilion. Da Qiao was his sister-in-law. Xiao Qiao was Zhou Yu's wife. The admiral's mask of composure shattered. He screamed, "Qiao is too insulting." Insulted self-esteem turned into a rage that incinerated Cao Cao's fleet at Red Cliff. In 1983, Apple needed a talented manager to IPO and professionalize. Steve Jobs targeted John Sculley, CEO of PepsiCo. But Sculley was at the peak of power, $1 million salary, with no reason to move to a fledgling computer company. Executing the stratagem, Steve Jobs launched a provocation strike directly at professional self-esteem. Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world? Results and statistics. John Sculley, for those with great talent and status, the ego is the fatal weakness. Striking at their self-esteem will generate a source of resistant energy more terrible than any command. If you are someone who easily flares up when criticized or gets sensitive when compared, you are very easily turned into a pawn in the hands of others. Anger is an instinct, but suppressing it is true mastery. This is the pinnacle of communication and persuasion, making others do what you want, while they remain firmly convinced that it is their own free and determined will. 6. Zhao Yun broke the siege alone, offering Ado to Liu Bei. Liu Bei took the child and threw him hard to the ground before the stunned army. He scolded, "Because of this brat, I nearly lost a great general." Zhao Yun prostrated, vowing to repay until death. That cruel drop confirmed, to Liu Bei, generals were more precious than flesh and blood. This was the ultimate buying of the heart, turning subordinates into permanently loyal death warriors. Liu Bei was not good at leading troops, but he was a master of possessing others' souls. In 2008, Starbucks was in crisis. Stock dropped 50%. Investors pressured Howard Schultz to cut employee medical costs to save profit. Executing the stratagem, Howard Schultz executed a modern dropping the child to buy the heart strike. He firmly kept health insurance for employees, accepting short-term profit decline and shareholder anger. He closed 7,000 stores for retraining, accepting the loss of millions in revenue in a few hours to protect human values. Results and statistics. Employees were absolutely loyal. Stock from under $10 2008 soared to over $60 2015. Market cap increased from $5 billion to over $100 billion. The most expensive thing in this world is not diamonds or jewels, but the human heart. Buying labor is easy. Buying devotion is difficult. Sincerity, even when expressed through a somewhat cruel action, still has a more powerful impact than 10,000 empty promises. To receive great things, one must accept the sacrifice of precious things. When a leader is willing to place the interests of the collective and their associates above their own core interests, the strength of that collective will become invincible. 7. After the Battle of Guan Yu, the Cao army found a chest of betrayal letters from subordinates to the rival. The traitors trembled, waiting for a purge. Cao Cao ordered them burned entirely without reading a line. He declared, "When the rival was strong, even I could not save my own life, let alone you." The fire incinerated evidence and hatred alike. Those who once wanted to defect now owed Cao Cao their lives. They fought 10 times harder to repay the debt of rebirth. After being elected in 1860, Lincoln faced civil war. In the party, rivals like Seward and Chase despised him as a provincial lawyer, having used the most bitter words to bring him down. Executing the stratagem, instead of punishing, Lincoln executed a modern-day burning letters stratagem. He appointed all his harshest rivals to key positions in the cabinet. He ignored all insults to serve the country together. Results and statistics. The U.S. government avoided disintegration. His cabinet helped the North win the Civil War, unify the country, and free the slaves. Lincoln became one of the greatest presidents in history. Hatred is like us drinking poison, but wishing for others to die. Burning the letters is not just to liberate subordinates, but also to liberate the leader's own mind. The way you treat internal traitors will determine the future of the kingdom. Forgiving at the right time is the most effective way to destroy an enemy, because it destroys the hostile intent and the treachery within their hearts. Never drive others into a corner, for when cornered, even a cat can turn into a fierce tiger. 8 dense dust and smoke covered Changban Slope, where tens of thousands of Cao Cao's iron cavalry were surging like a pitch-black tide. Behind them was destruction. Before them was a solitary figure standing tall on a tiny wooden bridge. That was Zhang Fei. In his hands were only 20 cavalrymen, facing 5,000 of the most elite troops under heaven. A situation that any military book would call the road of death, but Zhang Fei staged a classic psychological drama. He ordered 20 cavalrymen to tie tree branches to the horses' tails, running in circles in the deep forest behind to kick up thick dust, creating the sensation that tens of thousands of ambushers were hiding. He himself, 1 man and 1 horse, stood majestically in the middle of the bridge. When Cao Cao's grand army arrived, Cao Cao froze due to suspicion. Zhang Fei roared 3 times. In 2004, Facebook was just a small website in a dormitory. Mark Zuckerberg needed capital, but had no assets other than an idea. They showed false force by creating an appearance of extreme professionalism. They rented an office in Palo Alto, printed business cards saying, "I'm CEO, bitch," and presented with a demeanor as if they already owned the whole world. They used the hot growth at universities to create a dust cloud, making investors believe this was an unstoppable whirlwind. Result: Peter Thiel injected the first $500,000 US. By 2012, Facebook IPO'd with a capitalization of $104 billion US. Currently, Meta has a market capitalization of approximately $1 trillion US. Real strength does not lie only in muscles or account balances, but in the inner power radiating from within. Life is a mirror reflecting your consciousness. If you are timid and fearful, the world will oppress you. But if you stand with a straight back, hold your head high, and believe in your value, the world will have to make way for you. Create your own dust cloud through simulated calmness and confidence. When you are no longer afraid, you become invincible in the eyes of others. 9. Autumn winds at Wuzhang Plains blew fiercely. To force his opponent into battle, Kongming sent a messenger to gift Sima Yi a colorful silk woman's dress along with a mocking letter. The entire Wei army camp boiled. The generals screamed to go to battle to wash away this disgrace. Better to die in glory than to live in shame under a woman's dress. But Sima Yi did something that stunned everyone. In front of the messenger, he nonchalantly put that dress on his body, spun around, and laughingly asked, "Do I look beautiful in this?" He did not get angry at all. On the contrary, he kindly asked the messenger about Kongming's eating and sleeping. When he learned Kongming ate little but worked much, Sima Yi knew his opponent would not live much longer. He accepted being a laughingstock for a moment, only to finally become the only one standing at the summit of power, laying the foundation for the Han Dynasty to unify the realm. In 1985, Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he founded. It was a humiliating disgrace. Everyone saw him as a rejected failure. Instead of resentment, Jobs endured to rebuild from scratch with Pixar and Next. For 12 years, he accepted standing outside the glory, mocked as being past his prime. He patiently accumulated technology like Sima Yi, waiting for his chance. Result? When he was fired, Apple had a capitalization of $2 billion. When he returned in 1997, he restructured everything. Before Jobs passed away in 2011, Apple became the most valuable company in the world. Capitalization rose from $2 billion to nearly $400 billion and is now over $3 trillion. True mastery does not lie in fists or loud words. Mastery lies in the ability to digest pain and humiliation. Train yourself to have a stomach large enough to swallow difficult things and a heart quiet enough to remain unshaken by adversity. Patience here is not cowardly resignation, but the proactive stepping back of the strong to preserve the grand scheme. Live like Sima Yi. Know how to laugh when being insulted, know how to wear a dress when necessary, and know how to draw your sword when the time is ripe. Zhuge Liang had breathed his last breath. The Shu army silently retreated. Hearing that Kongming was dead, Sima Yi ordered the Grand Army to pursue with a spirit of devouring the enemy. But just as the Wei army closed in, a cannon blast tore through the sky. From the mist, a four-wheeled cart rolled out. On the cart was the figure of Kongming. Head wrap, crane cloak, holding a feather fan waving leisurely. Sima Yi saw this, and the blood in his body seemed to freeze. He screamed loudly, ordering a retreat for fear of falling into a trap. The Wei army trampled each other, running for dear life, for over 50 miles. Sima Yi ran while touching his own head, asking, "Is my head still on my neck?" In reality, it was just a wooden statue. Zhuge Liang used his prestige to borrow a corpse to bring back the soul, protecting the Shu army entirely, even when his heart had stopped beating. In 1966, Walt Disney passed away. The world doubted whether Disney could survive. Rivals plotted takeovers. The successors executed this stratagem by absolutely maintaining the philosophy. What would Walt do? The image of Walt Disney became a sacred wooden statue protecting the corporation. His prestige continued to lead the creative culture. Result? In 1966, Disney had revenue of $116 million. To date, Disney has become the largest entertainment corporation in the world, with a market capitalization of about $200 billion. Your prestige is the most powerful weapon you leave to the world. The true value of a person is not measured by the time they live, but by the depth of the mark they leave in the hearts of others. Focus on building prestige and ethics.
When your prestige is great enough, your words will carry a weight of 1,000 pounds, and your presence, even if only through a name, will be enough to resolve issues. A good leader is one whose presence makes brothers respect and fear, whose absence makes brothers self-disciplined, and whose departure leaves a solid cultural legacy for the organization to continue functioning smoothly.